And we want to get you to the Gulf Coast of Texas. That's where Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Seidel has been. He is spending the day in Port Aransas. And Mike, obviously things have gotten worse and worse as the day's gone on.
Yeah, here it's gotten better and better. I mean, the sun is out. We've got a lot of blue sky. We had some heavier rain this morning. That lasted for about 45 minutes or so. Corpus Christi had about 1.3 inches of rain. Meanwhile, here in nearby Rockport, a little less than that, around 1 inch of rain. There is not a whole lot on the radar right now. The dry air coming in, and now the wind is blowing offshore. So that's going to lower the storm surge threat. Here's what we have officially from the Hurricane Center. We have a hurricane watch from here north, a tropical storm warning, and that flash flood watch. So rainfall amounts here, I just can't see them being a problem in this area and down towards Corpus. As you go up the coast, north of certainly Port O'Connor into those areas, Freeport, and then back towards the Galveston-Houston area, yeah, certainly that's where the brunt of the rain is going to be falling. But we can look at the visible satellite photo, we can look at the radar, the fact that the winds now are offshore, the center has gone north of us latitude-wise, so we're looking very, very good here in the Port Aransas area. But this morning, to be on the safe side, they started pulling the lifeguard stands, the towers off the beach. Take a look. They brought out the heavy John Deere, huge front-end loader. They took the steps first and then the tower. And you can see the wave action behind me. Boy, these things are still rolling in. Now, by the way, low tide was about an hour ago. So the tide is going to start coming in, but the wind is blowing offshore, so that's a good thing. But as far as the eye can see, Dr. Nab, the waves are breaking. I was out at the end of the pier earlier, which is about at least 100 yards, and basically they're breaking, and it's churned up all across the Gulf of Mexico. And at the channel, Aransas Pass right now, 12 to 14 footers coming in towards the pass right here, Dr. Nab. But the winds gusting up to 35 miles an hour.
Yep, and that stronger right-hand side will be going, farther up the coast.
Absolutely, and coastal areas have been feeling the impacts. Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Seidel is at Port Aransas. And Mike, this kind of weather oftentimes gets the surfers out there. Anybody else, though, who isn't necessarily confident in the water, you want to stay away. The water is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, even if you're confident as a surfer, we've got two more gentlemen who have just gone out there. We'll see if we can catch them before we lose them in these very high, dangerous, battering waves. I don't know if you can see them out there in the distance, and there's several other gentlemen out there. So I think we've got 5 out there surfing. My concern is the fact that they're surfing near this concrete pier and these concrete footings. This is like, I hate to say death wish, but you get smacked against these the concrete pier, and that could be it. And you really don't have any control with this kind of wave action. 10 to 12 footers breaking way out. I mean, the whole Gulf is turned up from Nicholas. Our waves here, though, have shifted offshore. So that's going to help us out with a high tide coming up at 2:30 tomorrow morning. As far as that surge, wouldn't be as high because of the wind coming now generally northeast and north, blowing the water back. But we still have a push of water, as we've seen some overwash up here on the beach. You can see how much of the beach has had at least some water coming on up. Okay, what are we concerned with? Flash flooding and flash flood warnings, along with the potential for some power outages. But it's not going to be here. It's going to be up along the southeast Texas Gulf Coast and parts of Louisiana. We've got flash flood watches. We'll come back, check in with Dr. Nab, Mike Bettis, Alex Wilson, and more live coverage from Houston and that area later on.
We've got a lot to watch, of course, in terms of the rainfall. Meteorologist Mike Seidel has been at the coast throughout the day. I want to get an update from him. As Mike, you've really seen the conditions changing as the day's gone on.
Yeah, we have everything here today. We had the rain this morning with that first band coming through, but that was really our only band. Then we had the drier air in between. We had sunshine when we came on and started talking to you about 2 hours ago. Now it's clouded up again, and there's a few raindrops, but look at the radar. You can see that we have missed 95% of the brunt of Nicholas. Nobody here is complaining. Now, they did today pull off the lifeguard towers and the stairs and the porta potties this morning when we were on the air about mid-morning, just to be on the safe side. They locked down the pier, so you can't go out to the end of the pier. I went out there earlier this morning, and boy, I tell you, even though it's concrete and it's sturdy, You get out on the end and those waves come under there, you can feel that concrete pier vibrating. And we've got surfers out there. Now, I talked to one, he said the reason they go out and hang out there in the foreground, you can see about 4 or 5, about 6 or 7 gentlemen bobbing up and down right in front of where that pier extends off to the right. They say they call that the bowl. They say it's safer there because it blocks some of the wave action and they don't get pulled out into the Gulf of Mexico. And these are folks that have surfed here, so I'll take their word for it. It just seems awfully, awfully close to concrete and these big 8 to 10 to 12-foot waves. The other issue was going to be the rain, but again, it didn't really materialize. The storm stayed far enough off the coast. It moved on by. Wind is now offshore. That cuts down on the overall surge, although the beach will probably be covered with water at high tide. We've seen the water run up almost to where you park. And high tide is now till 2:30 tomorrow morning. So the flash flood watch has been lifted. So Dr. Nab, for the Corpus Christi area, in Port Aransas and Rockport and Port O'Connor, we did okay, but it's a whole different story. I'm looking at the radar, the same one you're looking at, with the darker reds and that lightning, and that is coming in shortly, and that's going to be pretty gnarly stuff there. And I suspect we'll start to see a slew of flash flood warnings popping up from the Weather Service out of Houston.
I don't see any way around it at this point, Mike. You're absolutely right. Tropical storm force winds and extremely heavy rainfall. Now, we've been talking at length about this high-risk area, and now it is really starting to rain heavily. This is, right now, is essentially the beginning of this high-risk event for Galveston and Freeport and down to Palacios, because now we've got the flood advisories that are in effect and the tropical storm force winds that are arriving. So Galveston, again, you're gusting up at tropical storm force. Palacios has gusted near 50. Bay City up at tropical storm force in terms of the gusts, and you haven't even gotten the strongest stuff over you yet. And so now we've got a couple of flood advisories in effect in the high-risk area. So this is almost certainly a flood advisory that's just a precursor to a flash flood warning that I hope doesn't have to go to something like a flash flood emergency later, but that's the kind of day and night this has the potential to become. So Freeport and Palacios and Matagorda and Brazosport flood advisory now.